as a company believe in business transformation in a digital era. Businesses have always transformed. And it's just that we live in a digital era. And tomorrow it could be something else. For example, some people are already saying that sustainability is the new digital. But given where we are today, I think there are a lot of dilemmas that we face. This is the first time in the history of the world that demand and supply have collapsed at the same time. Just because the government spends more money doesn't mean that it will generate more demand, because of broken supply chains. It's the first time that human beings are you would have seen that WhatsApp meme which says that divided we stand and united in proximity we fall. Never has happened before. What has also never happened before is the scale at which some of these things are being done. But clearly, what is also happening is digital is getting adopted. One of the, again, WhatsApp memes that I don't particularly like is who is the chief digital officer in a company or has done more for digital transformation, and it's always COVID-19, which is the answer. I would like to believe to the contrary, but I can't blame people for believing what they blame. But at a world, government, country, company level, what does the government do? Do we go full throttle and say hell with it? Let's go for budget deficit and protect the economy, but Moody's and Standard & Poor and Duff & Phelps will downgrade you? What do? Do you borrow today and as a company and increase your debt, or do you just cut down on production and reduce your fixed cost? Do you invest to gain market share, or do you just hire freezing? Go for a hiring freeze? Do you spend today and say, look, I'm depressed, I need some comfort food, I need to salvage my life or get back to what I used to know as my life? Or do you just save money for the rainy day saying, hey, look, there's so much of uncertainty? Do you buy cheap goods from China because your wallet is already down? Or do you diversify your supply chains away from China? Many, many questions, and there are no easy answers. These are 4 of the top consultants in the world. When we started our digital journey, somebody asked me this question: how do you select what to do? One of the consultants, Wiseman, said that firms are trying to unlock value in the front end, in the back end, which is efficiency, yield, energy, throughput, quality, and productivity. 43% of the firms are trying to drive new sources of growth. 13% of the firms are only doing both, and disproportionate value is accruing to the firms that are doing that. So in the Tata Steel program, we said on digital, we will work in all 3 areas. We will work in operations cost control, which is yield, energy, throughput, quality, and productivity. We will work in the market side, which is platforms like Ashiana and vertical markets, new sources of growth, newer ways of engaging customers, giving them a better experience, drawing insights, improving the way we serve it, and reducing the cost of the sales force and the channel. And we also said that we will look at new business models. Second, Wiseman said that 5% operating expense should be spent on digital and 10% deployed in digital roles. So we are also hitting those numbers and we are seeing the gains from it. Third person said that, this is all about data. Value from data will come from analytics, and the best data capture in a manufacturing company is going to come from the Internet of Things, because the sensors are spewing data. So we led with analytics. We led with a program called Marvel, making analytics real, valuable, efficient, and logical. If you're interested, you can type my name and Tata Steel and Marvel in net. You will find an entire paper which is written on it. It might give you some insights if you're interested. The last consultant said that, look, this whole digital is about 2 things. Hype hubris done by the IT players. They claim things. AI is going to change the world. Singularity is approaching and stuff like that. And then there is the pilot purgatory. Every person tries to do a blockchain pilot, and we all know how it ends. Answer is nothing. So they said, don't do 1,000 points of digital light. Look at digital as a key enabler. Come from the customer back. Net Promoter Score. I hope you're familiar with Net Promoter Score. Look at NPS and see how you can come backwards from the customer and make your entire journey in a way where the customer's needs are fulfilled and they give you word of mouth and they like you, and when you have a healthy customer, you'll have a healthy P&L, as long as your operations are not messing it up. I think the digitalization, virtualization, dematerialization, and servitization, as I call it, I think these are forces that are just marching on. There would be different ramifications. For example, let's take two things which I am very passionate about. Let's take the sharing economy and let's take the gig economy. The sharing economy has taken a beating thanks to the pandemic, because you have homeowners who are saying, do I want strangers to come in and stay? You want your guests who are saying, am I sure of the homeowner standards of fumigation, or am I better off going and staying in the Taj, right? You have people saying, my God, I don't know this driver is COVID positive or not. The driver is saying, I don't know the patient is, the passenger is COVID positive or not. And we both don't know what was the status of the last passenger. So Uber's revenues have dropped 95% in India, as you know. Whereas the gig economy, thanks to remote, anytime, any place, any device computing, people are thinking, we are looking at a liquid workforce. We are saying, look, why do we have to have ownership of every resource? Why can't we just look at access? We're looking at location agnostic positions. We are in the eastern part of country in a small town which is not well connected. Most of our mines and our other installations are in remote locations. Youngsters such as yourselves don't want to go there, and you like to be in cafe coffee days, and you like to go to baristas and malls. We can't offer you that. So can we do but we can offer anytime, anywhere connect. So can we do location agnostic positions? We're looking at that. Other thing which is happening, which I'm very happy about, is work in manufacturing is getting divorced from machines and brute force. Historically, men were, workspaces were seen to be very brutal. They were seen to have physical strength made an impact. They were seen to be unsafe. Now, if you see some of our installations, they are cleaner than offices. So I'm not saying that there's not dust and dirt and grime in Tata Steel. No, never. There always is and there will be. But some, there's the CRM plants that we have, the cold rolling mills. They're absolutely clean, spick and span, great places. And even in mines, we have introduced an all-women shift. So I see that as very positive, because it's diversity, and it's also service thinking will come in more, which is necessary. In terms of real services, there are 3 services business we have. We have this nest-in doors that we sell. House units. You can check that out. We have a services and solutions business in terms of door pravesh, where we sell all sorts of steel doors, which have a wood finish. We have a furniture business, and we are hitting system revenues of close to 1,200 crores on the services business. We also sold courses last month, I was saying. So there's a lot of opportunity for monetizing assets, for monetizing knowledge, for monetizing IP. And we did some unthinkable handshakes during COVID. We tied up with Zomato and Swiggy in 2 days' time and started delivering vegetables in Jamshedpur, because we wanted to protect the livelihoods of certain farmers who could not bring their produce to Jamshedpur due to the lockdown. And Swiggy and Zomato were not getting any orders for delivering anything. So it was a win-win tie-up. Some of these will stick, some of these will not stick. The bad part about the whole thing is that I believe this is not the last crisis, 2008, was really a man session. You had manufacturing, you had financial, the banking sector, and you had the housing sector, which are the bastions of men, which was hit. This, unfortunately, is a she session, as they call it, because you have the services of hospitality, travel, tourism, which has got badly hit, and sharing economy has got badly hit. And as you have had more people working from home, you typically have had a lot of the women, while I hear that men have taken a large part of the load, but I still think that it's quite unfairly distributed. So in short, services would go. Remote services are going to grow. So you've seen how remote health has become, how remote education has become. Services that can be delivered remotely and digitally are going to grow. Services that are essential are going to grow. Services that are discretionary and our anti-social distancing, I think the jury is out on how some of that will progress. But I think all manufacturing companies are looking at their assets long and hard and seeing how they can monetize it. In fact, we are coming with a what we call Digica 2.0. It is a sharing platform for MSMEs, whereas MSMEs can sell capacities, can sell knowledge, etc. to each other. The way I see it, if you see Silicon Valley has the right conversations, the right cash, the right people floating around it, and has just got so many people who have the experience that, just roaming around and speaking to people, you will hear their lingo, you will hear their way that they deal with, you'll know the inside out. You just have talent, you can get out and quickly get a job. So it's a different vibrancy. But let me tell you, it's nothing compared to what's happening in China. And I've said this before, that there are only two types of people in the world: those who compare India with China and those who have been to China. And it's just the scale, the investments, the way the government, the regulation works together, the kind of bets that they take, and also the fact is that, look, digital is all about data. And China collects much more data because of its social and political milieu than India does. And Chinese companies operate at 4.5 times the scale. So when I went to China last year in May and I met all the large companies there, this is how one of the guys explained the China is to India to me. He said, look, in terms of connectivity, your connectivity is 1/5 compared to ours. 22% broadband versus 80% broadband. So 1:4. And then they said in terms of paying power, it's 1:5 because your per capita income is 1/5 of ours. So that's 1:25. And then they said that, look, in terms of e-commerce penetration, it is 7% versus 21%. So it's 1:3. So the market is in the ratio of 1:75. And if you see the kind of investments that those guys are making in marketing, it is 1:400. And the reason that is there, it can justify 1:75, but it can't justify 1:400. And that's because of the whole gamification industry. They have a much larger games industry than we do. And so I think, to answer that, your second question, where does India? So that's the other one. If you see Bangalore, it's not a lot of deep tech work. There are 23 Indian. There were 23 Indian unicorns before the lockdown happened, and that's the third or the fourth largest in the world. But there are 200 plus unicorns, 245 unicorns in China. It's 1:10. So 1:10 in terms of unicorns. Their unicorns are 500, 600 billion. Our largest unicorn was about 20 billion. 1:30. Again, 1:75 on the customer numbers, 1:400 on the marketing chain numbers. And the e-commerce market in China is 4 times larger already than the e-commerce market in the US, and growing at a much faster pace. So it's really China is bigger in digital than all the other countries put together. That's just how life is.
But in terms of you see the consumer market, the size is pretty much close, right? So it's only the technology or the way.
It's a lot of things. It's like, what is our version of WeChat? So we don't have a WeChat equivalent where you can hail a cab, you can translate, you can do everything in one place, right? Secondly is China went with its language, which is one language. Yeah. China is one country, Han Chinese, who speak Chinese.
And it's
we are 25 different countries, and each smaller and poorer than, if we were to divide China into 25 parts, each part would be 5 times richer than our part, and their 2 hour parts are much smaller and much poorer. So those are just the numbers. Now, if you see where we would head, I think, look, there were 300 million internet users in India 5 years ago. It was predicted the number would be 650. The number is 650. Okay. But our infrastructure is creaking. Our 5G is getting 2.5 years already delayed. And we'll probably be 5 years behind the world in terms of 5G. But the good thing that happened in India right now is, and only Reliance brought about 380 million people into the digital world. So that was a good thing. Data consumption average is one of the highest in the world. Indians are consuming 25 GB of data. So it's no mean feat. Our networks are still holding, which is good. And I think if we can move away from our liking for entertainment and content to some more learning and doing, we would be much better off. The Indian is just, we calculated. One of the Chinese guys told me. He said, "Look, this is an Indian entrepreneur is 1086, and we are 997." I said, "What does it mean?" He said, our entrepreneurs come at 9 o'clock in the morning, they leave at 9 in the night, and they work 7 days a week. So that is 12 into 74, 84 hours. Your great entrepreneurs, they come at 10 in the morning, they leave at 8 in the evening, and they work 6 days a week. You will never be able to compete with us.
And we are assuming the output is the same.
That's another problem because the Indian entrepreneur obviously has his ego to fulfill and his friends to chat with, and proclaim success even before he has gotten anywhere. And on top of that, they love paying themselves big salaries. That is what my Chinese were telling me. The guy, we have an entrepreneur here who's a third generation entrepreneur. He has flipped 2 companies and he pays himself next to nothing. And you have a guy there fresh out of college who pays himself a lot of money because he's an entrepreneur. And then the company runs out of cash. So higher amount of delinquency as well. I hope you guys don't beat me for saying all this, but I'm just telling you what reality is. There is no point in burying our head in the sand and thinking that the storm will blow away.
It helps actually seeing these numbers, and maybe some of us will try to change it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Jha.